From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, I'm Rob Cairns. I'm the founder, CEO, and chief creator of Amazing Ideas at Stunning Digital Marketing. In today's podcast, I sit down with Sophia DeRosia and Talisha Lewallen, and we talk about an interesting initiative about certifications in the WordPress space that they're working on. It's an initiative that is long overdue, and it's a really interesting conversation. So grab a drink, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This episode of the SDM Show is sponsored by Stunning Digital Marketing, the agency to handle all your WordPress website security needs. Go on over to stunningdigitalmarketing.com and find out how we can help you secure your website so you no longer have an issue with backups, being hacked, or your website being compromised. That's stunningdigitalmarketing.com. Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. And in today's podcast, I've got my good friends Talisha and Sophia with me, and we're going to talk about credentials and certifications in the WordPress space. How are both of you?
We're great.
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing well, Sophia. So I thought we'd jump in and start, and I always like to ask people what their WordPress origin story is. So I'm going to pick on the younger one of the group first, Sophia. And how'd you get into WordPress and why?
Well, I was in some form born into it. I technically was born before WordPress, but just barely. My dad was always involved in the tech space when I was a kid. And so once he started to go to different WordCamps and various different WordPress related conferences, I was all like, ooh, I want to go. They have cool t-shirts and stuff. And it kind of jump started me into getting involved in the community and getting to know people. And it kind of gave me a baseline for where I could build a career off of. And then the older I got and the more that I needed money, I was like, oh, hey, I know how to do this. And I know a ton of people here. So that's where I am.
Yeah, and that's not uncommon. I need something, so I go after it, right? So,
exactly.
That's all good. And Talisha, how did you get into WordPress?
Well, mine started, I think, with probably quite a few people with COVID. And my husband and I own a farm. And so I was going to start selling our beef kind of like online and just letting people know about it. And I needed a website. So I contacted the one person I know that messes around with websites, I guess. And I called, good old Corey Miller and was like, hey, I know that you work in WordPress. This is what I'm trying to do. And so that was the birth of my first ever website I created. And then he and I started kind of another venture. And then I got brought in at Post Status for a while. And now I'm over here at my own company with, WP Certify and WP Connects, or Certified WP and WP Connects. But that's COVID kind of was the snowball for me.
Which is not uncommon for a lot of people. A lot of people jumped in the web game when COVID did and realized e-commerce was the way to sell and needed to go that route. So, and what I would say to people is that landscape has been shifting for a long time anyway. I mean, I don't know about you, but my mom maintains I must own shares in Amazon for the amount of stuff I buy online. And, and they do it really right. And a lot of other big retailers have gotten in that game. So it's no surprise that other people are jumping in.
Right. So, I think it just gives everybody a good space.
Yeah. And by the way, just to touch on, if you're not a Post Status member, join Post Status. Corey runs a really good organization, and it's a great way for WordPress professionals to get together and talk and chat and share like-minded and meet some amazing connections. So feel free to do that. So where did Certified WP come from, and why this whole discussion about certification?
So whenever I first came into, WordPress, as a new user, new person, I really started looking around for, what could I take to learn how to build a website? And then as luck would have it, while I was at Post Status, Corey and I met this pretty cool gentleman named Hector. And that's where WP Connects was born from. We train military personnel, active duty and separating, in WordPress. And then we help them find jobs within the WordPress space. So whenever I started WP Connects back in June of 2022, maybe even May, I really started talking about we have to have a credential. We just really need a base level of education to be able to train these military personnel on. And one of the ways we train our active duty personnel is the Credentialing Assistance Program. And with that, you have to have a credential to train them that's approved through the DoD. So that's kind of where Certified WP came from. Is I just saw a need, and I talked to Michelle Frechette and quite a few other people, and I got a little bit of, I don't know, credentials and certifications have always kind of been a no, we're not going to do it. And then I got resounding yeses from so many people saying that we need it and they can see the need. And so now we are the Certified WP Foundation and on our way to become a full-fledged nonprofit. And yeah, so that's really kind of how Certified WP just turned around, as we saw a need for, WP Connects and our military members, but also just the community as a whole.
Yeah. And that's so exciting that I think it's something that's been well needed in our community for a long, long time. I mean, you get somebody out on the street and they start looking at WordPress professionals, and it's like, how do they know A from B from C if there's not a baseline somewhere? So.
Right. And that's what we're hearing from a lot of hiring managers, even at Post Status. When we would ask people what they needed, they said their company needs, people to hire, but it's not just people to hire. They need qualified people. And where does that come from? What's that baseline education? If somebody comes to a job and says, I'm a WordPress developer, nobody exactly knows what that entails and what skill sets that set in. Mm-hmm. And that's where those certifications and credentials really help.
Yeah. And I would actually suggest that maybe we need a couple credentials, not one. So maybe we need one as a baseline, like a WordPress one, mm-hmm. and then one
exactly.
maybe a WooCommerce one. And I would go so far as to say we probably need a security one, just because a lot of people that are good designers and developers don't understand the locking down the website game. So,
yes.
There's three right there. What do you think about that,
right.
Sophia?
Oh, we are in the process of creating those. Am I correct, Talisha?
Yes. So we have, we're currently building two separate credentials. We have a front end credential that we're building now, and there's going to be 3 tiers. So every credential that we're building is basic level, intermediate, expert knowledge. So you have to pass all 3 to hold that credentialing license. So we're doing front end, then we're doing back end, and there has been talk about doing some form of a security, or, just really what that looks like. But these first basic 2, front end and back end, are the main focus right now. But yeah, I think that there can be a lot of different credentials popping out of this.
Is there any building in any ongoing education in those credentials to keep them? You lose it if you don't take some updated training or something like that, or is that discussion for the future?
Nope. That kind of plays into the difference between a credential and a certification. So when you take a certification, you just you took a class, and you might have had to take a test, you might have not, but you're able to show that you have this piece of paper and it says, I have taken this, and now I am a WordPress, expert, whatever. But a lot of certifications do not have ongoing learning. It's just, you could say 10 years later that, yes, I'm certified in WordPress, and you still have this credential, and you've never taken ongoing education. You've never learned anything new about WordPress. So with credentials, there is an education component that is continuing. The board has decided that it's every 3 years you have to recertify. And then with that, you could continue to take the education, or you could just take the exam, but you do have to recertify. And with WordPress, in my opinion, that's the only way to go, is to do a credential where you have to recertify that knowledge. There's, there's little things that changes, but then there's also major changes. So the board has a plan for those major changes that might occur between taking those credentialing exams. But that really is the main part of a credential, is having that ongoing education and not just saying, hey, I took it 10 years ago and I can still do it. It's keeping it updated. And pretty much every profession, I guess, you have teaching certifications, you have, the people who fix your cars, all of them are credentialed. And so they have to keep up their education as well. So it really just gives it that extra kind of like oomph of backing, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think that's actually really good. Brian Gardner, who many of us in the community know, who works over at WP Engine as a developer advocate, has said many times on Friday Build Mode calls that entrepreneurs and designers need to take 5 to 10% of their time and invest it back in their learning skills. So this is another way of investing time back in yourself. And I kind of applaud this type of program, Sophia. I've got, believe it or not, 16 sets of letters after my name if I choose to put them there. So I'm like one of those lifetime learners, and then I implement what I've learned. So I think that's really important, especially for somebody like you who hasn't been around the space as much as some of us, right?
Well, yes and no. This is where the concept of a credential really it shows its impact, I guess. I don't know. It shows its significance. I have a ton of community experience, and I know a lot of people, and I know a lot of things, and I could start. Like, I know I have all the basis to start anything I wanted, but I have no clue how to actually learn any of those things. Mm-hmm. And even if I've gone to multiple different people and said, hey, you're really well known in this space. Can you teach me how to do this? And they're like, yes. But they've made it up as they go. And so, like, I've thought many times, like, oh, I could just go and do this thing. But I can't just go and do this thing, because if I then go to an employer, it's not going to hold anything necessarily, or it might in this specific community, in this specific space. But if I decide, it's not like a college degree where you go anywhere and they're like, oh, this at least shows that you put in the time and effort to learn this thing, regardless of whether it's actually applicable.
Mm-hmm. And what I'll tell you is, what we also got to make sure of is these programs they actually teach the right things. So I'll give you an example of that. I spent 21 years in the tech space before I started an agency. And many, many years ago at Women's College Hospital in Toronto, we had a consultant who came to us, and he had what was called a Novell CNE at the time, which is a Novell Certified Network Engineer. Mm-hmm. And my colleague and I actually, who both were not certified at the time, we both were after the fact, actually taught him stuff, because the Novell program was very much a textbook type of program. And as a result, he passed his exam, but even though he had letters after his name, he still couldn't do the job, if you know what I mean. So so I think we got to be really careful that these credentials are like practical.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's a good example. Talisha, why does DoD matter with these credentials? And could you explain all about that as well?
Yeah. So I know we've been getting a little bit of questions when people have been seeing that the DoD is going to be, I guess, involved in a way. So for WP Connects to use this credential to train our active duty military personnel, it has to go through the DoD Army Cool system. So they have to approve the credential to make sure that it fits for the military personnel. So getting it approved through the DoD, there are certain qualifications that have to be met. So one is the community endorsement letters, or it could be accredited. So that's where you might see out on Twitter and hear, hopefully word of mouth, that we're needing these endorsement letters. And it's not because this is just a credential for the military. I'm using it to help us train the military in our other training platforms with WP Connects. So the DoD just gives it more of a backing and a power that our credential is recognized by the DoD. It's like I said, it's kind of like having it accredited, but there's just a lot of checks and balances that go into it that I personally feel is also a really good thing for our credential to have. So it's not just somebody I'll just put it this way. It's not just somebody sitting in a back room being like, this is what I think should be in the exam. And this is what I think people should learn in this credential. We have an advisory board of community members. And we also have a board of directors with Certified WP being a nonprofit. So it is truly a community built and maintained credential. And so there is all this education and experience that is going into what even should go into this credential. And then it will, all of it will get sent to the DoD with the letters. And then they will either agree or disagree that it should be, it's to the standard of being trained in the military. So that's really where that's coming from. It's still a credential for the whole community and for everybody, but I'm just using it also as another avenue for our training with WP Connects and our military members.
No, that's really good. Now, does the DoD relook at these credentials like on a yearly basis or a bi-yearly basis to see if they still meet criteria, or how does that come about?
That's a very interesting question. I am not 100% sure. I know that they do have, like I said, they do have checks and balances. I don't know if they fully look at each credential every year, but we have to turn in how many people took the credential, how many people took the exam, and then the pass to fail ratio there. Okay. But that is for like the military side too, for them to make sure that their funding is going to the appropriate places. If the credential is not meeting standards over there, then the funding for the military will cease to exist on that side. So yeah, I mean, they do look at it, but they look at it for a different purpose.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying. Sophia, has anybody contacted Automatic or any of the contacts up at Automatic to get them involved in this, or are you trying to stay arm's length from the parent organization?
I know Talisha has contacted Automatic. That was all handled before I was brought onto the company. I'm actually only about 2 months into working with them.
Okay.
Talisha, yes. So we, and I would say me, because I throw Michelle Frechette into everything. Bless her. She's an amazing human.
As Matt Mullenweg called her, stated the word, the busiest woman in WordPress.
Seriously. I really don't know how she does everything, but she saves our life on a constant basis. Like, I swear, I know that sounds so dramatic, but I have crashed the site at least once. We've had and I just call her and she immediately gets on, or she reviews anything and everything. She's just like, yeah, give me tonight and I'll do it. And I'm like, you are doing so much. Please tell me no if I'm ever asking too much. I don't want to do that. But like I said, she's been a lifesaver. So she jumped into the meeting with Josepha and myself, and we have been in email communication, and we had an actual sit down, Zoom meeting. And we talked about the credential, what we're doing, where we're seeing it go. And from that meeting, which was probably about a month ago now, they just want to see kind of where they fit in. Are they going to back it? Are they just going to let us do our own thing? Or, really what that looks like. So we're still in conversations with them. But overall, in my opinion, it's been very positive feedback.
I think in this case, it would serve Automatic well to back it, because it would go hand in hand. It would make sense personally, but time will tell, right? So
exactly. Yeah. And, I was asked one day, why should Certified WP be the one to create this credential? Why not Automatic? Why not the hosting companies? Why not, I don't know, somebody else? And my thing is, why not us? We are a strictly third party, completely objective group. We're hosting, it won't turn into a gatekeeping situation. It won't turn, and financially, credentials are expensive. Well, with it being a nonprofit, we're able to sponsor people. So there's a lot of benefits to it being a third-party company that is doing this, because we can 100% make sure that it's completely objective and that we are benefiting the whole community as a whole. And I think we do that with our advisory board. And like I said, if anybody has questions, they contact me and we meet and I explain what we're doing. And I would love for that to continue if anybody does have questions or concerns.
That's awesome. Now let's talk about the hosting side of it. And that's a really interesting discussion. But you do have members from hosting companies on your board. And so do you want to talk about a little bit about, so people understand the cross section of who's on your board? Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah. And I'm going to preface it with saying, sorry if I forget anybody, because we have between the board, the advisory board helping make the credentials, and the board of directors, I might get half of everybody thrown around. But we do have, like I've said, Michelle Frechette is on both the board of directors and our advisory board. We're trying to keep them separate, but there is going to be a little bit of crossover just because of who all is involved. So we have Michelle. We also have Jessica Frick I believe she's with Pressable.
Yes, now. She is. She's up at Pressable. What a great lady to have on your board.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Love her.
Yes,
yeah.
And amazingly helpful as well. When I always go back to the WordPress community, I've never met anybody in the community that is not just ridiculously helpful and totally supportive and willing to give feedback. So let's see. We have Jess, and then we also have Robbie Adair with OS Training, which is a huge asset, just because of all of her training experience. She's able to give a really good perspective. Yeah. Then we have Nicole Bolt. I always mispronounce her name. She's going to yell at me one day. Balmer with the Liquid Web brand. She is on our advisory board as well. Then we have Gabriel Cohen with PMC. Also another really interesting perspective. They're doing some really cool things over at PMC. And then we have Courtney Robertson with GoDaddy and whatever. Courtney is also one of those very busy women who is doing a lot. So we have her, and I feel like I am missing somebody.
A Zach, correct?
Yes.
I don't remember which one.
Who's that?
Hold on. Let me click over here. I was clicking around on our Snap or our Slack channel, trying to figure it out. We did bring on, oh my gosh, Stepik. Sorry, Zach, if you're listening. Zach Stepik has been brought on to, help us on the front end credential, but we really needed that back end credential person, expert. So when we were all talking about when we decided we were going to do a front end and a back end credential, it was one of those fun moments where we all looked at each other and was like, so who can do that? and it was decided that we needed to really bring in another person. So we do, if we realize that we have a lack in the advisory board for knowledge on an area, we talk about it, and then we go out and start trying to find the people to fill that need. So Zach luckily was a great person to talk to, and he stepped on. And then we have Hans. He's on our board of directors. Super pumped to talk about him on that. And then Rob Howard is also on our board of directors.
What an amazing makeup of people in the community, and each one of them should be commended for stepping up, and each one of them should be commended for their involvement. And they're all people, when I look at that list traditionally, that have given more than their business into this community. So I think your board's pretty well served. And the concerns about the hosting companies not doing this, I would think that's out the window, because you got representatives from 3 hosting companies. Liquid Web, you've got a couple from Liquid Web, because Michelle actually works for Stellar with WP, which is a Liquid Web brand. Then you've got Courtney over at GoDaddy, and you've got Jessica over at Pressable. I mean, from a hosting company perspective, I think you're well served. So I don't think that concern is out there as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And I think it's just one of those that, and it is, I hope that wasn't taken that I was speaking badly about the hosting companies and how they shouldn't do it. But, it's one of those that I just think being able to involve so many people of different areas of WordPress, of different experiences, of different skill set, really in to determine what should be here. And then to keep everything fair right across the board. That's one of the DoD standards, is it has to, there can not be any favoritism or anything. It can't be, you have to use one of our certified people or you can't host with us, or, I don't know, not even that would happen. But there is no fear of that happening because it is a complete third party that has the hosting companies present in the board, which like I said, I love every single person that has joined this crazy ride with me and did not just tell me to sit down and be quiet and has really jumped on board and was like, yes, let's do this. This is crazy. So we're figuring out a lot as we go on, but we have an amazing team that's helping.
Yeah, I was going to say, Sophia, it's amazing. I've been working with Courtney on this LinkedIn group for over a year. Mm-hmm. And as you both know, Courtney was one of the training leads till she stepped down on learn.wordpress.org. And so she's got a good perspective on that. And we've been talking for a year how there's a need for this. So, all of us who are entrenched in this stuff see it. So I think you guys are doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So, well, we definitely appreciate that. We love any type of encouragement. Like anything new, there are, bumps in the road. So we love the encouragement. It helps us get through the bumps.
Is there anything else you want to add, Sophia, that about the project or where you're going or timelines or anything like that?
Well, I know, we're about to finish phase 1 of our credential. Is that correct, Talisha?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we have level 1 complete, and we are almost done with level 2, and the board just has to review it and pass it on, and then and we're starting level 3, and these are both of the front-end developer credential. So we're going to go through front-end and get all 3 of those, and then we'll start working on that back-end. But hopefully they should be up in an LMS system and ready to rock and roll by the end of next month.
Yeah. Good. And is there any... Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. We're also building in, we have a couple different projects coming in that should come up in the next couple months to kind of boost the community engagement and kind of highlight the need for the credential in the community of new people coming into WordPress and wanting to get involved. Yep. And also just kind of talking about some of these long-term bigger issues and differences and things that make people go, oh, when we bring up the concept of a credential to just kind of discuss some of the bigger things about it.
Yeah. Talisha, have you thought about with WordCamp US around the corner in Maryland this year, maybe thinking that would be a great opportunity to get a speaker spot and talk about this?
Yes. You know what's interesting is I had a conversation with Matt Perry at WordPress VIP, and they are thinking about possibly doing some level of a certification for kind of like going above and beyond ours from our expert to being able to serve those mega corps, and stuff like that. So through that conversation of talking to him about that credential and how we're running ours and all of this fun stuff, I was like, we really should just be speakers at WordCamp US and let's get a speaker spot. So I'm hopeful that he and I can do that and really team up to have this conversation about what we're both doing, credentials, why they're needed, how they're important, blah, 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 do a Q&A. And if not, then I will definitely throw my name in the hat there and just do a speaker spot for myself. If I am granted a spot, I would really love to. I think it's just a great way to get the knowledge out and really ask those questions and, answer them the best way we can.
No, I think that's really important. Is there anything else you'd like to add that we haven't touched on today?
Just if you have time and you feel the calling, we do need the community endorsement letters. It will just help our process with the DoD go so much smoother. You could do it as a person or if it's a company. And it's just endorsing that you see a need in the community for a credential or having just that baseline of education. On the website, we have two different ways you could do it. You could either upload your own letter, or you can just click some buttons, and it will generate the letter for you.
Oh, that's awesome. And the website is?
CertifiedWP.com.
And if anybody wants to get a hold of either one of you with questions, help, endorsement, concerns, how's the best way?
For me, it's either on our Twitter page, or you can email me directly at Talisha at WPConnects with an S at the end.com, or Slack. If you're in post status Slack, I'm in there as well. And so, yeah, those any and all ways, just feel free to reach out and contact me.
And Sophia, how's the best way to get in touch with you?
I'm the same. I have been quite active on both of the both of the Twitter accounts for Certified WP and WP Connects. So I should notice any sort of engagement over there. You can also email me at Sophia at WPConnects with an S.com or at gmail.com.
Thank you very much, ladies. All the best of luck with the credential, and we'll talk soon, I am sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This episode of the SDM Show is sponsored by Stunning Digital Marketing, the agency to handle all your WordPress website security needs. Go on over to stunningdigitalmarketing.com and find out how we can help you secure your website so you no longer have an issue with backups, being hacked, or your website being compromised. That's stunningdigitalmarketing.com. A very special thank you to Sophie and Talisha for joining me on this edition of the SDM Show. Thank you for listening to this edition of the SDM Show. The SDM Show is brought to you by Rob Cairns and Stunning Digital Marketing. For more information about Rob Cairns and Stunning Digital Marketing, go to stunningdigitalmarketing.info. From here, you can connect to us on social media, go to our website, and even go to the podcast to subscribe. This podcast is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much. Keep your feet on the ground. Keep reaching for the stars. Make your business succeed.